A very, very good evening from a still cool and slightly chilly Johannesburg, but one that is still decidedly drier than the southern part of the country. Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Norman Goodfellows, and welcome to a week of cleanup. And as we mentioned on the show on Monday, it has been a devastating time for a lot of our winemakers, our wine estates, our wine communities, who took one hell of a pounding. The scenes out of Franschhoek, out of Elgin, out of the Hemelanada, Botrefier, parts of Somerset West were apocalyptic. And now it is time for our winemakers and our estates to try and put all these pieces together, to rebuild bridges, to get roads back up and running. And some of the stories are particularly heartbreaking. I had a message from Caroline Martin at Creation, who showed me a video of the Pebbles Bridge that had been built through a very intense fundraising effort to get kids over the river, 160 of them to school. That bridge is now gone, one of many in the Hemelanada that is no more. Scenes from Franschhoek, where I think the centre of Franschhoek is still closed off. It was a raging river through the middle of the village on Monday, and just across the winelands, cellars flooded, roads in disrepair, a lot of damage. The important part, thankfully, is that no lives were lost, and by and large, people seem to have escaped okay in that sense. But there is a lot to be done. And I had lunch with Michael Fridge on just a couple of days ago, and we're not sure exactly what yet, but he in particular has been talking to people in the community and a couple of people he works with, and we're going to see what we can, as a wine industry, collectively do to support not just the winemakers and wine estates, but also the communities, the people around those areas who've really taken the brunt of the battering of the storm. And it's something that ties in rather nicely to tonight's show, because we find at the Cape Winemakers Guild not just some of the greatest wine in the country, but also a very rich seam of philanthropy, as our winemakers, our guild members, produce wine that, once sold at auction, sees money go towards the Guild Trust, supporting the next generation of winemakers and supporting the broader wine community, which is exactly what we're going to be needing to do over the next while. So we have on the show today, and I'm very excited, some of my favorite people in wine. Erika Obermeyer makes a welcome return to the show, a newish member of the Guild. Rianie Strydom is with us. She's got a new role herself in the wine industry, which she'll tell us about. John Loubser is with us, the man who showed us that Colombard could make magical bubbles, and possibly, I'm not sure, I know it's been a difficult week in the Hemelanada. We're hoping we might just sneak Bartho Eksteen, the Sauvignon Blanc master, onto the show as well, but we'll see how that goes. I know they've had some challenges this week, and understandably so. So definitely 3, possibly 4, but collectively showcasing the Cape Winemakers Guild, which is not just an incredible space in terms of the talent that is showcased, but that also does such fantastic work throughout the wine communities. That's coming up in just a moment on Dan Really Likes Wine. First of all, though, some wine news. This is coming up at the end of October, just under a month to go. WineX at Santon Convention Centre. And again, having chatted to Michael Fridge, on the man behind WineX, over a very pleasant lunch at the Potluck Club. He was running through some of the highlights. And I think the biggest highlight here is just the sheer quantity of quality wine that is on show. The winemakers make an effort not just to be there themselves, but to bring out some really good wine. And it makes it quite difficult for those of us who go along, because there's an awful lot of wine to try and sample in a relatively short space of time. 25, 26, 27 October. Your best bet is to get a ticket for every single night, and break it up. Right, day 1, I'm doing bubbles and rosé. Day 2, I'm doing white, and day 3, I'm doing red, or something along those lines. But if you just get to the one, you're still going to have an amazing experience. And those early tickets are on sale at Web Tickets. So look out for WineX at the end of October, and look out for something special. Dan really likes wine coming up from WineX. We'll keep you posted. Now, next week, one for the diary, the guys from Van Louveren out in Robertson, and this is going to be at the Four Ways Norman Goodfellows store. I will not be at this one, sadly. I shall be in Scotland, hopefully keeping reasonably warm at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championships, but I shall be watching excitedly from afar as the Van Louveren team run through a range of wine you might not always be familiar with. These are the guys who've given us Four Cousins, which is their most famous brand, but they make a lot of wine, a lot of different spaces, and you'll get the chance to try some of that and find out who Christina is, somebody with a rather important story in the Van Louveren history. So that's coming up Tuesday next week. Go to the Norman Goodfellows website, and that will sort you out. And then the one we are talking about tonight, this is the Nedbank Cape Winemakers Guild auction. It is next Friday and Saturday. It is 4 until 8 on Friday at the Lord Charles, and then Saturday from 9 through until 3 o'clock. I've been through the booklet, been through the brochure. There is some lovely wine, and not just the releases specifically for this particular auction, but there are wines that have been brought back, favorites from previous years, wine that brings in some of the real legends of South African wine. First prize is to actually be there if you can get there and get yourself a ticket. But if not, head online, register on the Strauss & Co website. That's how I will be following the auction from Scotland, and hopefully getting my hands on some wine, but it's always a challenge because the prices tend to go up quite quickly, as they should, because it's wonderful wine for a wonderful cause, and that is exactly what we are talking about on the show today. So a warm welcome to everybody, and a warm welcome to members of a wine community that have been reeling a little over the last few days, some more than others. Some places had a slightly luckier escape, others took a fair pounding. So we'll get a sense, I think, particularly from Bartho, as to how things are going. But let's welcome all of our guests on. Erika Obermeyer joins us on the show. So too does John Loubser and Rianie Strydom, and Bartho Eksteen, who is looking remarkably dry. Bartho, I was wondering if you might be sort of dripping and wiping away streaks of mud. Give us an update from your perspective. What have the last few days been like, and how badly have you and your community been hit?
Good morning, and good morning to all my friends on the other side. Now I'm sitting in Gauteng. I have to sell wine. Yeah, no, we had a terrible experience. We had Sunday evening, just before dark, I looked outside and I thought, wow, the water is coming up. And we had the same situation about 2 months ago. So we escaped the damage. So I thought it's most probably similar. And the next morning it was still dark, and I just heard a lot of noise outside. I didn't know whether it's water or rain, water or wind. And as it started to become light, I looked outside and I just couldn't believe what I saw. I mean, the Onrus River is about 100 meters away from us in a bush, not even on our property. And the Onrus River moved onto our farm, and where it was normally the width of a car, for instance, of a vehicle, it was like 10 or more cars, the length of 10 or more cars, and it was just one mess of water. And yeah, it went through our vineyard, so it took away all our Chardonnay and Pinot Meunier and all our sparkling wine, and it's about 20% of our vineyards are gone. But the worst is actually that the newly built Hemelenade Road, there are sections that's also been damaged. So the road is finished, and one of our main income streams is cellar sales. So that is a bigger problem. We're almost back to COVID.
It's shown in the pictures, the videos that I've been sent through by some of your colleagues in the Hemelenade. I know it's very early days, Bartho, and you're probably still, as a community, assessing the damage. But what can people do? How can people support? What's the way in which we can try and help you guys to get back on your feet after this?
Well, we must just carry on. That's all. I mean, there's lots of friends who offered help, and it's just clearing up and see what we can save. It's still early. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that washed down the river there now that covers up the some of the vines, but the canopy is gone. You know, the trellises, the poles, and everything is gone. Veggie gardens are gone. Yeah, so it's just hard work. It's always the income stream is the main thing that, as I said, it's our main one of our main sources of income is Salvador sales. So yeah, so that's why I'm up here now, trying to sell.
Well, we will be doing our best with both Dan Relax Wine and Norman Goodfellows to drive as much as we can to try and offset some of that damage. It's a time, Bartho, where you need all the support you can get, and it's probably a good reminder and a good parallel with the wine family that you represent on the show today, because that Cape Winemakers Guild, yes, it is a collection of excellent winemakers celebrated for the ability that you have and that you've all shown over many years. But it's also a very close group of friends and a close group of people who talk together a lot, who share ideas, who support each other, just this super cool wine club who offer, whether it's times of challenge like now or times of celebration, a very closely knit network.
No, true. Yeah, but it's still not my call, you know. So, but it's always appreciated. We've been helping fellow wine makers in the past, but I mean, it's not something that I'm going to ask for, please. So yeah, so what more can I say? So let's hope the wine on the auction at least fits a good price.
Well, we're going to have a look at the wine of Bartho in just a second. Let's jump over to one of our newer members of the guild. Now, generally, she has a permanent smile etched into her face, and I love spending time with her. She always makes me feel happy. Erika, lovely to see you. Welcome back to the show. Am I right? Is this your first wine for the guild auction?
Hello, Dan. It's always lovely to be on the show. You know, you're one of my favorite wine people, and not just wine people. I love celebrating life with Dan Nicol. It's always fun. Yeah, I'm on. It's my debut wine on the Cape Winemakers Guild auction. I'm extremely excited. I think it's just not only a celebration of my first wine, but also a celebration of the last 10 years, my journey. Since I started Erika Obermeyer Wines, and I'm calling it Silver Linings. And I think it's such a strong message, particularly also now with the floods and the devastation that we see, is that we always find inspiration from nature. And that is the story behind my wine, that you always need to find that glimmer of hope in any challenging situation. There's always a new day, a new opportunity, and people pull together and they stand together. So I hope we can take a little bit of this wine and send the message forward that we always need to stand together and help one another.
Before we talk about that wine and find out exactly what you've put into your silver linings, I remember speaking to you when you just made the guild, and you were just a bubble of excitement. That will have settled down ever so slightly now, but it'll also given you time for a bit of perspective. Where does Erika Obermeyer being admitted to the Cape Winemakers Guild sit in terms of the career high points of what has been a really cool wine journey for you?
Yeah, I think it's that one moment that you never really anticipate. You don't know really how. You have to be in the minute and in the moment to really know how big this is. It happened in 2021, December, when I was invited into the guild. 2021 was a really amazing year for me on a personal level and even more so on my career level. So it just came together. And I think it's years of hard work, and finally you get that little tick that you know that you've done a lot of hard work and people appreciate and see it. And it's just an amazing group of people. It is like a family. Being sense of belonging is so important in life. And I think that is biggest thing in the guild is that you know that you've got friends, you've got family that always backs you. So that is just been amazing. It has settled down a little bit, but it also keeps you on your toes because it inspires you not only just to make better wine, but to be a better person, to always think about the industry, to put South Africa first, and always remember that we're in the business of not just beverage. We're making wine. We're making something that celebrates life and moments and memories with family and friends.
And that sort of upbeat approach to everything is a key part of so many of the winemakers I know. And to echo some of Bartho's sentiments, this group that you have, for people for whom wine is the production of wine is not something they know well, they might think, well, yeah, you guys are all competing with each other. You're trying to sell wine at the same time. Surely you can't possibly all be great friends and get on so well. But it is such a great asset of the South African wine industry in particular, the network of support, of friendship, of camaraderie amongst the winemakers, and particularly within this Cape Winemakers Guild, is so strong.
Yeah, most certainly. And I think if you look at the last 5 years or 10 years of the Cape Winemakers Guild, it has changed a lot. It's such a diverse group of winemakers across the winelands. And I think that is the beauty of South African wine, is that we're so diverse in personality, in terroir. You can find any style of wine across. The guild is collectively, if you look at the wines on auction this year, it's just amazing to see the quality that is seen across the winelands. And I think that is important to take that message internationally, that South Africa is not just one area, we're not just one style, and we can embrace that uniqueness. We are really Ubuntu, we are a country of many diversity, and I think more so in our wine. It's just incredible to see the quality that comes out of the winelands.
It's a good month to be having both the auction and the Rugby World Cup, because between the Springboks and South African wine, you've probably got the two biggest drivers of putting smiles on faces and celebrating South Africa around the world. I know you've been doing a bit of travel this year, Erika. So too is a member of the Strydom family. Let's cross to the best winemaker in the family. Rianie, lovely to have you back on the show, where you have not just a husband making some wine up the road, but there's also a son over in California at the moment flying the South African flag.
Yeah, no, yes, thanks, Louis. It's good that he realizes that, so we'll leave that at that. And then, yes, our oldest son, Jean-Louis, which I think most members at CWG know by now, and I think it's also quite a lot in the industry, just probably being a mom and kind of try and give him as much experience as possible. So he's over in Sonoma and he's doing a vintage at Stone Street. And yes, checks in every morning at about 6:30 when we're supposed to leave to work, and gives the workload that needs to happen on the farm, because it's a project that he started, the planting of the vineyards. And it's a project that he will probably continue doing for Strydom going forward.
It is a wonderful family network. We've spoken about the guilds being so close and supportive to each other. What about the family? Is it always one big happy and united winemaking force, or is there the occasional family argument about how to make wine?
Yeah, I think, having three in the family now, it's definitely, you just realize how individual winemakers can be, and stylistically how you, again, it sounds like cliches always, but how you can make different wines from the same grapes, just looking at things from different sides and angles, and maybe what your palate is. So and that is the exciting part. So yes, we are, I guess, quite critical in a positive way on one another's wines. I do think it's quite exciting having Jean-Louis so excited about wine and want to learn more, and traveling the world, and how he kind of is just sucking up all the knowledge that he's gaining, and kind of moving with the changes, what's happening in the world of wine. And I think that can be incredibly good going forward for the Strydom family wines. But yes, amongst me and Louis, we shave on one another. It's a happy time if we have a few glasses of wine in. We sometimes talk hard to one another on wine, but it's all that one or the other can make something better than what it is at that point. And and I love tasting wine quite a lot. I don't always take criticism good, but I realize you can't just have your own opinion the whole time. You're going to make a better wine if you actually see what the outside people are thinking of your wine, and especially before you put it in the bottle, because once it's in the bottle, there's nothing you can do about it. But if you can get that criticism and take it to heart, if it's really positive criticism, you are just putting a better product in the bottle. And from that side, it's quite nice. And it's not just the three of us in the wine. I mean, my Jacques, our middle son, who's in accounting, and Danielle, who's busy with the second semester off to become a chef. It's like alles in die lyn van wyn, if I can put that in Afrikaans, and that becomes a really nice communal discussion at our home. Not always, but lots of time.
Jean-Louis Strydom is a name to watch out for. We're going to be hearing a lot more of it in the wine industry. He's on a wonderful adventure in California. You've also got a new adventure that has just kicked off, and it looks rather familiar in the background. I think I recognize it. Cavalli Estate, head winemaker.
Yes, I've joined Cavalli from beginning of June, and I've been running more than walking. It's been a big change. It's been a really exciting change, coming from doing my own brand and consulting for the last 5 years. It's quite excited to be kind of anchored at one place and kind of really be part of the industry again. My responsibilities is big. My shoulders is wide, as you can see. So it's head winemaker. I've got a lovely assistant, which is really, really helping me a lot. The farm is about 100 hectares, 27 hectares of vineyard, which is all under the two of us. We run the logistics. So yes, it's quite exciting. I do think it's a great opportunity to kind of unfold that extra step to the next level at Cavalli. So the vineyards are really, it's still young vineyards, and they're kind of also going into that young maturity, which is just, if you can kind of fold and take the style to the next level from here, I think it can be very, very exciting in the future. And I'm really excited. I think the team at Cavalli is all quite excited, and the suggestions we give, it kind of get embraced, and we all work together to that single goal of really becoming also one of the iconic brands on the Helderberg and the Golden Triangle area.
There's been a great deal of success at Cavalli over the last little while for white wine in particular. They've also got a fabulous restaurant. Add Rianie Strydom to the formula, and Cavalli is in a very, very good space indeed. Let's dip up the road to Robertson. Check in quickly, first of all, John, with the rain there, did you guys escape the worst of it? Was there a bit of a storm to sweep through Robertson as well?
Hi, Dan. Yes, hi, everyone. No, we actually experienced quite hectic rain. The Breede River is really living up to its reputation. So obviously Breede is Afrikaans for wide. I'm sitting, if I look across, it's probably, the river went to about 200 meters wide. So we had extreme flooding. It's usually a 1 in 20 year flood. And this is now the second one in 3 months. So it's been quite an experience.
Well, it sounds like, although it was wide, you got away with a little less damage than some of the other areas. But it's becoming more of a regular occurrence where we talk to winemakers, we talk to producers about the weather. Are we just having a run of bad luck, or do you feel that things are changing quite dramatically, and it's just got to be something that as a winemaker and as a wine producer, you've got to somehow just be more and more prepared for and have to deal with and take in your stride?
Yeah, I think we definitely just have to become a lot more adaptable. I suppose, the fact that you have two massive floods like this, these are these typical cut-off lows and black southeasters, they're not unique. And the fact that you have 2 in 1 year is probably just coincidental. But I think global, the changes in weather are definitely evident. A lot more extreme. So colder winters, more rain. And obviously in summer, we're getting a lot more heat. So, yeah, got to keep nimble.
Well, if anybody can be adaptable, John, it is you, because you've got a great record of taking your love of bubbles into uncharted territory. I think last time we had you on the show was with some Colombard that you'd made into something rather lovely. That bubbles continues. We'll talk about your guild wine in a moment. But just broadly speaking, I think every time I chat to somebody in the Robertson Valley, it doesn't take too long for bubbles to come up in the conversation, and for the reminder that the reputation of Robertson as, I think, not just one of South Africa, but one of the world's premier homes of sparkling wine and its many guises and names is more and more established. Are you of the feeling that as a Robertson collective, with yourself very much at the forefront, it is being recognized increasingly as somewhere that is just a consistent home of genuinely world-class bubbles?
Yeah, I think what's interesting, Robertson produces the bulk of South Africa Chardonnay. So I think we in excess of 26% of all Chardonnay grown in South Africa is grown in the greater Robertson area. Our soils are particularly unique and good. So we've got these ancient shale and limestone soils. And as we all know, Chardonnay loves limestone. So I think what has happened, we've got good Chardonnay producers, the likes of De Wetshof. And then Cut Classic is something that's really come to the forefront. So Silverthorn, we specialize in Cut Classic. Graham Beck, who started in 1991, specialize in Cut Classic. They pretty much the biggest Cut Classic producer in South Africa. But if you start looking throughout the industry, the major players who make Cut Classic are sourcing their fruit from Robertson. So Robertson is not only a good producer in its own right, but also a major supplier of Chardonnay, which is going to Stellenbosch, Franschhoek, Paarl, and to all the producers in those areas.
And we are reaping the rewards as bubbles drinkers from all around the world. Now, there's another cracking bubbles that John has delivered. I'll get him to introduce it to us in a moment. Let's head back to Erika and the silver linings. You've given us the story behind it and that optimism that you always embrace no matter what challenge pops up on your horizon. It must be a difficult one, Erika, when you know there are so many styles of wine that you've made with great success. Short tenure as Erika Obermeyer Wines, what to actually make, what's going to best reflect the wine that you are able to deliver to such a prestigious space. What did you decide on, and how did you make that decision?
Yeah, Dan, I think if you can ask me to add a new wine to my portfolio every year, I would be very excited about it. I think in marketing, it's very important to focus, to have an identity as a brand. So I sometimes have to keep myself at bay and just not go in and just add more wine. But I think making a wine for the Cape Winemakers Guild, and especially an auction wine that is seen as one of the top wines coming out of South Africa, I think it just allows you to be more innovative and more creative in the cellar. Obviously now as a brand being almost 10 years old already under the Erika O label, I think I know the vineyards really well. I'm very fortunate to work with vineyards that I worked with during my time at Graham Beck also. So I wanted to put something together for the Guild that you can't really find under the Erika O label. I think that is also unique, that it must be something special, something to celebrate. So I decided to make a Syrah blend, and in particular, Silver Linings is a celebration of our unique vineyard sites across the wineland. So it's Syrah from Stellenbosch, about 63%, then Grenache from Wellington, and also a little bit of Cinzo that just brings, I always call it the red lipstick and mascara blending component, and then a dash of Cabernet just brings a little bit of structure to the wine. So it's really a wine that celebrates the diversity of our soils, the unique sites we're working with, and that more multi-layered, multi-dimensional wine that just brings all these amazing sites together.
There was a wonderful, a very striking campaign this year with the Nedbank Cape Winemakers Guild, bringing art and AI art into the conversation, and it was brought in from the perspective of making wine is a form of art. And if I look at what you've brought here, a tiny touch of Cabernet Sauvignon just lifting out an extra element into the wine, it can sound, I suppose, a little pompous, but winemaking and art do have a lot of similarities, both in the process and in the end product.
Yeah, most certainly. I think if you understand your vineyard sites really well, I always say, I think my secret in wine is that I really understand the secret language of nature. When you're able to listen very closely what nature communicates, you're able to tell the story. And that is the privilege and the honor and also the responsibility, I think, as a winemaker, to bring all those things together. So I wanted to show this vibrant perfume side of the Syrah grape, and what's better if you can add any varietal. I think the Syrah brings the backbone, the spice, the berry fruit, and the structure, but Grenache, and it just ups the fruit side of the Syrah. It tones down that tannin structure a little bit. Cinza, as I said, it just brightens up everything. It brings a lovely freshness and acidity to the wine. But then the good old Cap, my favorite variety, it's just in a small quantity of 3%, it just brings that wine together and just gives so much structure and length and complexity to the wine. So it's certainly an art to be able to read the vineyards well, to be very humble in the cellar, not to try and change the wine, but just really give the vineyards the chance to tell the story in the glass.
Unfortunately, I know all too well Erika's love of Cabernet Sauvignon. She and my wife are great friends, and whenever she drops off Cabernet Sauvignon, my wife drinks it immediately. Says, "No, it's Erika's wine." She'd want me to drink it, so I have to keep ordering some quietly. We've had many conversations about wine. We've also had many conversations about dogs with Erika. Erika currently making some wine for our late bull mastiff Stavros, and we actually had some wine conversations around dogs last night, talking about Diesel and Bears Truter, and we'd had some of the Black Dog Malbec from Paul Wallace. It brings me rather appropriately to this from John Loubser. This is the Big Dog 9, which sounds like it might be a series of Dwayne Johnson action movies that's hit sequel number 8. Is there, John Loubser, an actual big dog? What's the story behind the name?
There's a definite big dog. Yeah, we named, actually, we great lovers of Rottweilers, and we've got this beautiful, massive Rottweiler. This was way back when, and his name was Rock, and he unfortunately got bone cancer. But in honor of Rock, the Rottweiler, we named our prestige cuvee, which we only sell on the auction, Big Dog. So it's pretty much in honor of the Rotti. He's got a follow-up now called Athena. We just call her Athene. So she's 9 years old and keeps us nice and busy on the farm. But yeah, so it was in honor of Rock, the Rottweiler. But then also, if you looked up at the stars, it's Sirius, which is the dog star, or the constellation Canis Major, which is the big dog in Latin.
It's a great name with a great story and a great wine to match. You've gone reasonably classic. I think it's about a 70-30 Chardonnay Pinot Noir blend, if memory serves. What's probably more eye-catching and more welcoming is the age. This is 2018, and I know we've had past conversations about encouraging people to give bubbles a chance, give it a little more time in the cellar to find an even happier space. You've done exactly that with 2018, giving people the opportunity to buy something that's a little further down the road.
Yeah, I think, you know, if we taste champagne and we praise it and enjoy the complexity and the richness of champagne, and then we sort of look and try and benchmark against Cap Classique, generally speaking, Cap Classique spend less time on the lease and are consumed quicker. If you're patient enough and you can hold back your sort of special cuvées of Cap Classique on the lease and give them that, you know, that the autolysis and the richness and the smaller bubble and the integration, if you can really let that come through, and also important is to give it time on the cork. So Big Dog 2018 is 53 months on the lease, which I think is pretty much what we'd like to achieve. I think 60 would be perfect. And then just under a year on the cork. And now when you drink it, you really get that very fine mousse, intense complexity. And at this point, Cap Classique really becomes very comparable to the great champagnes of the world.
I've had a number of slightly older Cap Classiques already this year, and once they start hitting 5-6 years, I've had some that have been going back 20 years that have been just remarkable. So lovely to see some older bubbles. Not the only 2018 we're talking about on the show today, because there's also one from Rianie. And what catches my eye here is that you have cheerfully embraced a grape that's enjoying a real resurgence in South African wine, I feel, over the last year or two, and that's Cabernet Franc. That leads your charge with your game changer.
Yes, I actually said at some of our tastings up in Johannesburg and Cape Town that I never thought a few years ago when I decided to call this wine the game changer, that it was going to be such a game changer. Yes, so I think this year there's a majority of like 6 or 7 wines that's got a very strong percentage of Cabernet Franc. Yeah, so my love affair with Cabernet Franc started as a very young winemaker, still at Morgenhof in the good old days in the 90s, where we had a vineyard of Cabernet Franc, and in those years, I still entered for the Young Wine Show, and twice we at Morgenhof actually won the Stellenbosch trophy for the best Cabernet Franc. So it was kind of always, that was something at the end of at the back of my mind. It was never something that was used in large percentages in the Bordeaux blend. So when it came to, after that went to Haskell, and I had a great vineyard there of Cabernet Franc also. And again, it was just always blended away in a percentage of the Bordeaux blend. I 1 year thought, and I'm also a little bit like Erika said, I don't want to put wine on auction that is part of my range. I really regard it that it should be a really special wine and quite exclusive. So then the thought came that why didn't I do something with Cabernet Franc for the auction? So the first one was in 2015. The name came about from walking back from a tasting that Bruce Jackstall presented to us. And I literally remember as I put my foot on top of a step, and I think, game changer, that's what I'm going to call the wine. It's going to be the game changer, because it's the first time I actually took that plunge to make a Cabernet Franc strong wine. There wasn't any Cabernet Francs on auction at that stage. Yes, it's a strong name, and it's made a big difference in me. We've now planted some Cabernet Franc on our property at Strydom, and it's something that maybe in a small quantity is going to be added to the range, but it's a variety that has become very prominent in the industry, and I think worldwide. It's a finesse, there's layers, there's just always something going on with it, and there's great opportunities of making elegant wines, and with the world going warmer, that elegance is becoming so crucial in the drinkability and the freshness of wine. So it adds a great opportunity for the future.
It's a simple blend in terms of it's just the two varieties, but it's certainly not simple in terms of creating the perfect wine. I go back to the point I made with Erika about that similarity between art and winemaking, which was raised and pictured so beautifully in the campaign with the Guild this year. As a winemaker, that creation of any wine, but a blend in particular, there is an artistry to that, to working out, I need a splash of this, I need a splash of that, a bit more wood, a bit less, a real creative edge to what from the outside might seem like a fairly straightforward process.
Yes, I mean, I absolutely love blending wine. Always, to me, the sum of the parts is always better than the individual blocks. So, and maybe, creating this blend comes from, besides the Cabernet Franc, I've done a vintage in Saint-Emilion in 1998, where, yes, you have Merlot Cabernet Franc blends, but there's certain pockets that do Cabernet Franc Merlot blends. And I mean, one particular property is Sovo Blanc. And as a very young winemaker, I had the opportunity to taste There's three really iconic wines that I've always aspired to, and Sovo Blanc was one of them. I think it was probably the first seriously expensive wine that I had an opportunity to taste, and it is some years it's Cabernet Franc strong, other years they maybe changed it a bit around, but it's in those years that it's really a lot of Cabernet Franc that is which is mostly the time that just always stood out, and so to me it's like that is an area that I respect very highly, and we have really good Cabernet Franc in South Africa, so why don't try that? So yes, the Cabernet Franc is that freshness and a bit of a graininess and a bit of like grey flavor profile with the graphite and so on. But the Merlot part of it, it's just that feminine and fullness and just a little bit voluptuousness that it adds and kind of just fills the gaps and makes the wine so much more complete. And there's enough tannins in both of these wines to make a solid wine for ageability. So you'll see, yes, I have the 2018. This was a decision I took a few years ago that I want to put my wines on auction when they're at least 5 years old, just to give the style of wine that I like making, which is to work with tannins, or not to work with tannins, but to have tannins in my wines for that longevity, to just give that time to just settle down a little bit, and just give that enhanced drinkability by the time it goes on auction. And then from there onwards, if you want to put this away another 15 years, I don't think the wine is going to disappoint in another 15 years' time.
That's another great showcase of Cabernet Franc, 78%, so a good chunk of Rianie's wine. Cabernet Franc is enjoying a new lease of life. Sauvignon Blanc is well established and remains a perennial favorite, and no small amount. Tonight he's probably the godfather of Sauvignon Blanc in South Africa. I remember first encountering him via my second dad, Martin van Bunigen at Mirabel, who I grew up with in Zimbabwe, and he was very excited when he'd managed to convince Bartho Eksteen to make his Sauvignon Blanc for him, and did a couple of marvelous vintages. And this is the most successful Sauvignon Blanc in the history of the Guild, and Jancis Robertson recently had one that she absolutely loved. Bartho, this passion for Sauvignon Blanc that runs so richly through the veins, where does it come from?
Then when I joined Wildekranz, sorry, I've lost, am I there?
Oh, we've got you. We can't see your picture, but we can hear you.
Oh, yeah, I lost the picture as well. Sorry, I have to work from my cell phone. I'm traveling. Then, yeah, when I was appointed as the first winemaker for Wildekranz back in '93, and I realized in that first year the potential. We've made some great Sauvignon Blancs, and since then I just fell in love with the grape and just realized that it is not only what people regard as this wine that you should consume in the year of production, but there's longevity, the way that you make it, it's crucial. And I've just since then had a continuous research or doing my own experiments and hitting the jackpot when we won the Diners Club Winemaker of the Year in 2010 with a Sauvignon, and specifically with a wooded Sauvignon, where I've actually made the most personal experiments on the use of wood on Sauvignon Blanc, because I always thought there's a bit of a lack on that side of Sauvignon. I mean, we always used the wood regime of Chardonnay, and we've made this oak juice, so we can only blame ourselves. And recently there are so many top class wooded Sauvignon Blancs that it's lovely to see. And I just had a tasting last night where I showed some older Sauvignons, and the people just couldn't believe. They all thought, and I mean, it's an ongoing process for me. I never want to miss the opportunity when I do a tasting to tell people about the maturation potential of Sauvignon. But I also think that Sauvignon Blanc has become almost like its own enemy, because it's one of the very few white wines that you can really enjoy as an unwooded wine. And you make and if you look at platters, and so they're fetching great awards on unwooded, where other varieties does not. And now recently also on the wooded side. So yeah, it's lovely to see.
We had a few winners, I think, last year, one of the international Sauvignon Blanc competitions, and of the 4 South Africans who'd featured prominently, 3 of the Sauvignon Blancs that they had won their acclaim with were all wooded. Your one here, the 22, the Vuxford, is wooded as well. Tell me a bit about that evolution of Sauvignon Blanc and what seems to be both more winemakers appreciating and understanding the potential of wood on Sauvignon Blanc, but also I think and I hope people who are drinking wine at home realizing the potential that wood has to bring something extra out of Sauvignon Blanc and possibly give it a few more years as well.
Yeah, I've coming back to the longevity, or the maturation potential. I've actually opened a year ago. I've opened a unwooded Sauvignon of mine from the year 2000. I must say I was I was surprised myself. It was frighteningly good. It hasn't been even it wasn't even yellow. So yeah, but it's funny that how wine writers also changes their perspective and views on wines and on wine styles. I think that wine writers are also looking more towards wooded wines than unwooded wines. It's almost as if unwooded wines supposed not to be as good as wooded wines. I'm just asking the question. If you look at Sauvignon Blanc, for instance, as a category in platters, I mean, I always come back to platters because this is a program where you now are talking to Cape Winemakers members, and 93% of the members are supporting platters. There's a percentage of the growth of wooded Sauvignons are enormous now, and also the percentage of 5-star wines are percentage-wise. It's also the better performer, even if you compare it with a variety like Chenin, which is on everybody's lips. Yeah, so I went to actually counted all the entries from 2012 to see where are we standing with Sauvignon. I was quite surprised to see that growth percentage-wise.
You will remain, for both the quality of the wine and the reputation, the headline act at the Guild auction when it comes to Sauvignon Blanc. This is your entry. In fact, I've got a bottle of it right here, the Vlugsgoed. How difficult is it for you to decide exactly what to put in, and why is this the one that you've settled on, Bartho?
Dan, how difficult it is quite a, is it an overstatement or an understatement? I always say for me it's always such a honor to have my wine on the auction, especially if you look at it from our side, where bigger wine producers has lots more to pick from or to choose from, where they have maybe 10 or more barrels or tanks that they can choose from. We only have one. We make one barrel, a 500-liter barrel of wooded Sauvignon Blanc. We make one tank of unwooded Sauvignon. We make one tank of Rosé, one tank of bubbly. Everything must be good. We only have one chance, and it must be good. And especially if your name is on the wine, it's also a challenge. You know, I call it an endorsement. Does
And
that
it's that.
answer your question?
No, it does indeed. I suspect there was still a lot of debate, because you say you've got your name on it and you do want to deliver something that is particularly special, and the prices on these wines indicate how much value people place in these, and it is those prices at the auction that do such a special job. So we'll wrap up. A final thought from everybody on that space, Rianie, the work that is done by the trust, the money raised from this auction, and where it goes. How important is that to you as a guild member?
Yes, that is very important. If you, where I've been until now in my own business, I was such a small business, and in my setup, it's really difficult it would have been difficult to make a difference, where through the CWG, at least I have that opportunity. So, and there's quite a few girls this year, and you get there and they're just always so excited and they're smiling, and you can see the enthusiasm, and I think, I've been in the industry now going for my 30th year this year. If you're not exposed to all of that, I think all the time, you almost like maybe can forget how exciting our industry is. And this young people that is kind of under us and that just embraces life and the opportunity that's been given to them, that kind of just brings joy to everybody. It definitely brings joy to me. So I'm really happy to be able to, and honored to have the opportunity to give back in that way. And yeah, I guess if you're also in the industry for 30 years, it's nice to be able to talk to somebody that seems that they're listening and they want to learn from what you've gained experience. So it's just really exciting. I'm really glad for it and the opportunity.
Bartho, you've got the legacy of a great Sauvignon Blanc producer. You've also got a great legacy, though, as a teacher and a mentor, and bringing young people into the wine industry is something you've done for so long now. And so I think probably more than most, you would understand and appreciate the value of being able to channel resources and support into this next generation of winemakers, so follow in the footsteps of the four of you and your guild colleagues, and be able to make sure that there are more and more young, talented, exciting winemakers, not just coming through into the industry, but having the opportunity to do so under the guiding hand of the guild.
Yeah, my what we call Vin School, it's very informal. It's not part of the guild itself, but I would rather like to see it as a breeding ground, if we can call it that. Just prepare school children for a career in wine, and most probably that they can follow become a protege at the guild if they do get selected. But the whole idea for me was when I was at the agricultural school in Paul, Boland Landbou, my son as well. So the idea was just to convey the wine industry and its challenges to the next generation. There's already a agriculture vibe at the school, to bring across a little bit of the art of wine. We had a little winery at the school ground, and the responsibility that goes with wine, and that it can become a career choice. So that's mainly what it was, and we ran it at the school till 2018, and we moved it over to our farm in Hermanus in 2019, and then COVID struck. So yeah, COVID left a terrible mark on the Vin School. We're trying to actually think the whole process of how we're going to take it further, because I wanted to move it to Hermanus, firstly because it's 130 kilometers drive to Paul, and it is also I wanted to bring in offer the opportunity to girls as well, it's a boys' school only, and also to serve my own community, and it's difficult in Hermanus. It's almost as if the children in our area doesn't know that one of the most popular wine routes now is on their doorstep. And so it's a bit of marketing still to do. I've started after COVID, but yeah, we will take it from here, and we will certainly continue with it.
It's one of the great benefits of this guild platform, the ability to tell these wine stories and continue to drive the industry, and drive the industry in terms of bringing people into it. I think Rutger van Wyk is probably my odds-on bet to be the first of those to become a member of the guild. I'm not sure Chiara Scott would be too far behind. So many exciting young winemakers. I'm excited. I think most of the wine industry is excited, and particularly on the back of a really rough few days for a number of our wine producers, as Bartho articulated so clearly at the start of the show, to have something like this to look forward to, an uplifting, a fun, special, entertaining space is really, really well timed, and particularly when it is full of such splendid wine made by such splendid people. So to Erika, to Rianie, to Bartho, to John, guys, thank you very, very much. Not just for being part of the show, and it's delightful to have had all of you with us today, but also for the work that you guys do as a guild. It is such a wonderful resource we have in South Africa, and there is such a selfless drive that you all add to it in terms of the wine you donate, the work you do as the guild, and how you put it together. So best of luck for the auction. I will be torn between wanting to buy lots of wine and deciding whether or not my children should go to university, but it won't be the first time I've had a particular dilemma. And I've got one of each of your wines today, which I'll be drinking very happily over next week. Good luck with the auction. Thanks so much for it, and keep up the amazing work with the guild.
Thank you, Dan.
Cheers.
So there we go. What a wonderful collection. Wine people are just good people. I really do love being able to work in this particular space. So John Loubser, the bubbles out of Robertson, the Big Dog 9. Here's wine coming up at the auction. The Silver Linings from Erika Obermeyer, her very first wine, led by Syrah, but no surprises, a little touch of Cabernet Sauvignon, along with the Cinsault and the Grenache Noir. Bartho Eksteen, the Lord of Sauvignon Blanc, with a wooded Sauvignon Blanc that, well, we know it's Bartho and it's Sauvignon Blanc. Of course, it is going to be brilliant. And we've got the Game Changer, the 78% Cabernet Franc, 22% Merlot Red Blend from Rianie Strydom, made in between running the Strydom family wines and looking after Cavalli and ensuring that both Louis and Jean-Louis get their wine made correctly, as well as one of the first families of winemaking in South Africa. Great people, great wine, and a really great space. So if you can't make it to the Lord Charles next weekend, then do your best to get online via Strauss, register. The wine is fantastic, and where the money is going in terms of the Nedbank Cape Winemakers Guild Trust is so, so important. That does it for today. I'm jumping on a plane tomorrow, and after a weekend seeing some family in Northern Ireland, I shall be in Scotland at St Andrews from Monday. Monday's show, I'll be with my good friend Dave Farrell from Lincoln Park, who, when he's not playing to tens of thousands of people in rock stadiums around the world, just loves his wine. We'll be comparing California and Stellenbosch. And then next Thursday, still in Scotland, I'll be joined by Gareth Robertson from Anthony Rupert, not just for a look at the wine that will be on display at the Dunhill, but also talking about the upcoming tasting challenge. He is part of Team South Africa, and we'll have all 4 members on as we look ahead to what lies in store for them and how on earth you can work out what a glass of wine is. They're experts. They'll be able to tell me. That does it for today. Thoughts continue to be with all of our friends in the winelands as they recover from the battering of the storm, and as soon as we've got some more clarity on ways in which we can help and support, you shall be the first to know. This is Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Norman Goodfellows. Don't forget your last chance to win that Q-Bar experience, neither Stellenbosch or Rosebank, and a big competition coming up next month with John Smith and Avante Brandy, and the chance to hang out with the both of us. For now, have a great evening. Thanks to the Guild, and keep doing an amazing job. You do us proud. Goodbye. This is Q-Bar Rosebank in Johannesburg. And this is Q-Bar in the heart of Stellenbosch. And one of these two will be the venue for you and a friend for an unforgettable evening if you win this month's competition with Norman Goodfellows. You'll be treated to welcome bubbles and incredible wine tasting with the world-class sommeliers at both Q-Bars. And you'll also have either a cheese platter in Stellenbosch or a sushi platter in Johannesburg, and membership of the exclusive Coin Rock Members Club. And all you have to do to win this incredible prize during the month of September, buy any bottle of either Coin Rock or Norhook wines, with Q-Bar being the home to both, and you'll go into the draw for that fabulous prize and a Q-Bar experience you'll never forget.